Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our fast and accept all of our dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Alhamdulillah, we stopped where we were talking about the stories of the different prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions. These stories are not just stories for us to have as bedtime stories for our kids or just something that can just make us feel good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in their stories is a lesson for those people who use their mind, who have intellect. So basically what we should be doing is looking at these different stories of nations in the past and seeing, well, where did they go wrong, and make sure that we don't fall in the same hole. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a story in the Quran, there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just randomly put different things in the Quran. Everything is perfectly done for us to take benefit from. You know, we ourselves, or maybe when we're in high school, we have to write a 3-page essay or a 5-page essay, or sometimes even 10-page essay, and then we write the essay, but then because of the requirements that there, we try to fill in the blanks and make it longer, maybe make the font a little bit bigger, just so we can fit the requirement. These things are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far beyond mentioning a story. So even when it's the same story is mentioned twice, when the same theme is mentioned twice or 3 times or 4 times or 100 times, it's there for a reason, and a perfect reason for us to understand and try to come to understand our purpose, and a reason from it that we can take a lesson from it and live our life to help us live our life correctly. So there are numerous stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and these stories will be mentioned over and over from different angles, like we talked about the story of how Adam alayhi salam and Shaitan, it was mentioned on Al-Baqarah, and then a different detail, a different aspect, a different perspective, different lessons were mentioned again, although it was the same story. So this time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the story of Nuh alayhi salam, and the story of Ad, the story of Thamud, the story of Lut, the story of Madian, and the story of Musa alayhi salam. And if you look at it, all of them, they have a trending theme over here, that one, they can't accept certain things. They can't accept that there's someone here that's giving them some advice, and they want nothing in return. And it's almost a type of question and threat that they bring in, all to deny it, not because of their understanding or lack of understanding. So with Nuh alayhi salam, he's telling them, he's giving them advice, he's talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their only response is, you know what, we think you're from one of those people that went astray. No debate, no questions, no rhyme or reason of to try to bring some kind of understanding. Simply bring up a fallacy to try to put the person down. Now you have to understand that there's people that are leading these kinds of talks and these kinds of accusations, and those people that are leading it, they know there's a lot of people watching, and when those people that are watching, it's a common tactic that's been used then, and it's still used today, that you quickly bring some kind of accusation there to bring doubt and confusion in everybody else who's watching, and you maintain your authority. So what they did is they just simply said, instead of trying to say, that makes sense. Now, wait, let's just say, talk about Allah. How do you know He's one and all these other things? Prove to me this. They didn't say that. The first only response is, you know what? We think you're from one of the ones that went astray. And then with Qawm Ad, they Hud alayhi salam, that they went up to him, and they, instead of saying, well, wait, you make sense on this, but this part I don't understand, they said, you're one of those foolish guys. And then we go to Qawm Thamud with Salih alayhi salam, and over there even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions their cause and puts that cause in their quality and labels them that those people who had pride said to those people who were poor amongst them, the believers, amongst the believers, do you really think he's telling the truth? And they said, we believe that what he came with is the truth, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does what do they say? We don't believe in it, we're disbelievers in that. With Qawm Lut, the Prophet Lut alayhi salam is telling the people that listen, you cannot go following your desires and choosing the same gender over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for you. And it wasn't just a person or an individual or a group that's doing it. It's everybody being supported. Like for example, the wife of Lut alayhi salam, she was even supporting the male and telling them to come, there's angels there, not angels, but there's some beautiful men at my house, and they're helping each other even though there's no benefit in it for them. And their response when Lut alayhi salam is telling them all these things about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what their purpose in life is listen, Lut, we're gonna kick you out and we're gonna stone you. Quit saying these things. With Ashab Madyan, with Shu'aib alayhi salam, he was telling them like, listen, this is the truth. Be just when you're doing business. Don't do anything wrong. Don't change the scales to try to cheat people out of their money. Look, just keep doing it. And this is what I'm telling you, believe in it. Now, if you're not going to believe in it, I know there's going to be a group of people that will believe and a group of people that won't believe. So whoever goes on whichever side, just be patient after that. Let's just wait for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to decide. Very reasonable, very logic. We're not going to bother you. You don't bother us. What's their response? Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala labels them as those people that have pride. They said, listen, Shu'aib, either you're going to come back to our religion or we're going to kick you out. Again, no type of reason there. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after saying these stories and letting us know that, listen, all these different plagues, all these different characteristics that led people astray with pride and arrogance and the agendas in their talks, in their questioning of the Prophet alayhi salam, all of these things led them astray. And what happened is when it led them astray, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just let them be as it is, because He's not going to force people into guidance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that if He wanted to, He could. He could make every single person like one. But then that's no longer the creation of being a human. That's just like the angels. The angels already exist. They have that characteristic where they are perfect and they are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not disobeying Him anyway. And they're forced to do that. They have no free will. The reason we as human beings can outdo the angels is because we choose to live like the angel, which is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although we have free will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they stayed that way, so we just left them as is, and then even the hardships that they were going through, we made it ease, and then out of nowhere death came to them. And then they go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that state. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if the people had actually believed and they brought the taqwa, we would open to them the blessings of the skies. Now there's another ayah that we read before where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when they forgot the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we opened to them the doors of the skies, and they were happy with what they got. All of a sudden death came to them out of nowhere, and then they were regretful and remorseful. Now over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He didn't say that He's going to open the doors to the skies, but He says open the blessings of the skies, which is completely different than just being engulfed with just so much materialistic things, but rather understanding the value of it and treating it with that value and being grateful for it, being content with what you have. If we're not content, it doesn't matter how much we have. We can have $1 million, we can have $1 billion, no matter what. I mean, we could just look at those people who are living that kind of lifestyle where it doesn't stop. You hit your first million, okay, time to hit the second one. You hit the second one, time to hit the third one. This is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that if the son of Adam had a valley of gold, he'd want 2. If he had 2 valleys of gold, he'd want 3. The only thing that will satisfy his hunger and his desire is the dirt from his grave. In other words, as soon as we get laid in our grave, once we pass away and go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when the desire to attain more of this world will cease. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors to the skies, that doesn't really solve anything, because we just get everything we want more. We just keep going. I want more. It never stops. But when we get the doors of blessings open to us from the sky, now we're actually enjoying what we have instead of wondering, how can I get more? How can I get more? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if we believe and bring the taqwa, then He will open those blessings, the barakah from the sky, so that everything that we have will be sufficient and we ourselves will feel content and be able to enjoy what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So these other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, anybody who thinks any other way, that there's no way that anything's gonna happen to them, I can live any way I want, there's no problem, these people have lost. Because when the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when what He has planned and decided comes, then at that point, what's the person gonna do? They thought everything was gonna go their way, but it doesn't. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after this mentions the story of Musa alayhi salam, and it's the next few pages where the story of Musa alayhi salam takes place. And I urge everyone to read the story of Musa alayhi salam. There's so many lessons that we can get from it. One of the reasons why Musa alayhi salam is mentioned so many times more than any other prophet is he had a similar effort that he had to do with Bani Israel and Fir'aun, just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to do with his people, where they had to he had to call the people, the polytheists, to Islam, and he had to keep teaching the Muslims how to stay as good Muslims. And he would tell them that jaddidu imanakum, renew your faith, make it stronger, make yourself stronger, so that you never fall down. Because if we ever stop and just be content with our faith, then our faith will slowly decrease. So we never want to be content with our deeds, with our faith, with how much we do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to be more content with anything that's attached to this worldly life and our possessions, materialistic things. So the other key point that I will just mention right now is how the magicians, they were able to recognize Musa alayhi salam, the truth behind his miracle, which is making his staff into a snake, whereas everybody else didn't. And Fir'aun and the people of influence, they were constantly supporting one another. As soon as one sort of falters, the other one puts him up in a high pedestal. Like right away, the people, the influential people, are like, hey, no, you're the god. Fir'aun. This guy, he's a magician. And it's vice versa too, where if Musa alayhi salam says something that can convince the influential people, Fir'aun will be like, this guy's a magician, or this guy's a liar, this guy's trying to make you go astray. And they would constantly support one another. But with the magicians, they saw this the miracle of Musa alayhi salam, and they right away felt the sajda. What's the difference? They actually had knowledge of what magic was, whereas everybody else didn't. And that's why knowledge is key, because any type of knowledge that we have, as long as we understand that can actually help us one way or another throughout our life to make certain decisions. Where if we didn't have knowledge, we would maybe fail in that situation, or falter, or fall behind, because we didn't have that extra knowledge. And this is everywhere, within the deen, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, within the religion, within school, within work. Everything, the knowledge is there to help us. It will make our life a lot easier. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has, and He will continue going. There's a lot more left. There's a lot of lesson in this in the surah. We should go over it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets us know that we ourselves in this ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have been selected to be the ummah that's receiving the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? We're following the illiterate Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So really, it is a true blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one, He created us from the best of creation, made us into human beings. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's created us in the best of human beings by allowing us to recognize who He is. Then He created us from the best of people who recognize who He is by putting us in the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the nation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So really, it's just all we can do is just praise after praise after praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these countless blessings. So inshallah, with that, we'll have the 9th juz read tonight. It will be recited by Sheikh Hani Al-Rifa'i. Inshallah, hopefully it'll go through all the way. If it doesn't, we'll just continue from where we left off. فجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.